I know I've been early, but I really think the stock market's about had it here. The insiders are.
You're watching Silver News Daily. Subscribe for more.
Did you know that silver, the metal often overshadowed by gold, is now at the center of a high-stakes battle between the military and technology industries? This battle is about to send silver prices to heights never seen before. In today's video, we'll uncover why this precious metal is becoming the hottest commodity in the market and how you could benefit from this explosive trend. Stay tuned because you won't want to miss what's coming next.
Interview that I saw high-level consolidation for both metals. I mean, silver got as high as about 32.50. It's under that now. It's been struggling to get back over 30, and it's going basically sideways to down. Gold is looking better. It's touching near the nominal new highs, but still basically going sideways. I think we're pretty much, entering the summer doldrums. I don't expect a lot of upward pressure in August. I think we'll see more downward pressure. Seasonality is very clear that usually gold gets its low for the time frame in August. That may take hold here. As far as the broader market is concerned, I am more concerned than ever. I know I've been early, but I really think the stock market's about had it here. The insiders are all selling massively. I mean, you look at the amount of Bank of America stock that Warren Buffett is selling. You look at Jeff Bezos. You look at some of the big players selling off their stocks. I mean, even Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan selling stock. All the insiders, the big fat cats, have been selling stock, and that's an indicator that the insiders know that we probably hit a peak or near peak, and they're selling into strength, and they're giving that stock whatever market price the market will bear to whom? Well, whoever the buyers are on the other side, pension funds or the general public or IRAs or, retirement plans. So that should be a cue and a clue to everybody. I did that on my last weekly perspective, where I talk about, different topics. Sometimes I go philosophical, and sometimes usually go into kind of a wrap up of the week. Not necessarily all the markets, but the ones that are kind of most important in my thinking for the week. And last week it was basically how many of the insiders are selling off their stocks. So timing wise is tough, because what happens when you get an overvalued market is the insiders know to sell their stocks, but not sell them all at once, so they'll drive the market down. So they do what's called a distribution cycle. And with so many participants in the stock market now and so much money in the stock market now, they can sell large blocks and not really move the market because the liquidity is so strong. And that's what's going on. But at some point, the market recognizes that, wait a minute, there aren't any buyers. The price has got to come down to find a buyer. Wait a minute, there's not much more strength in the stock market. The prices has to come down to find more buyers, and on it goes. So I think we're just starting that cycle now. But thanks for bringing it up, because I think it's imperative that people that are overvalued or overexposed in the stock market start taking some money off the table. Don't expect to have the stock market go up forever. It just doesn't. No market does.
Now, getting into maybe some of the more...
Silver has always been known as gold's little brother. But what if I told you that this underdog metal is now the linchpin for two of the most powerful industries on the planet? That's right. The military and technology sectors are both becoming increasingly reliant on silver, not just for its intrinsic value, but for its unparalleled utility in cutting-edge applications. In recent years, silver's unique properties, such as its superior electrical conductivity and resistance to corrosion, have made it indispensable in everything from advanced military weaponry to the latest tech gadgets. But here's the kicker. This rising demand isn't just a trend. It's a tectonic shift that's changing the entire landscape of the silver market. David Morgan, a respected voice in the metals market, has pointed out that silver is not only critical in everyday tech like smartphones and solar panels, but is also becoming a strategic asset in military applications. This growing dependence is creating a supply squeeze that could push prices higher than we've ever seen before. Imagine a future where silver isn't just a valuable investment, but a critical component in the most advanced technologies and defense systems. as these industries battle for dominance in a world increasingly defined by technological advancement and geopolitical uncertainty. The question isn't if silver will surge in value, but when. And that when might be sooner than you think.
Well, we'll impact it positively. A lot of these mil spec items require, you know, very rough treatment, and that these, communication devices or, solar panels or whatever they have in the field, can do their job under any conditions, sandstorms, windstorms, ice storms, you name it. So military specification is really usually a very difficult one to meet. And because of that, it's very hardened equipment. And if you have very hardened equipment, you want the best of the best as far as power to weight ratio. From the electronic side, you're usually looking at silver batteries. Not in all cases, of course, but oftentimes you are. Then if you go to the weapons side and you look at some of these missiles and torpedoes and how much silver they use in the circuitry, it's substantial. And if you blow up that torpedo or missile, obviously that silver's been dispersed and you need to build another one. So, obviously, as you know, I'm very much for peace, but nonetheless, the reality is that an increase in war weaponry usage would definitely put a demand on the silver side. How much, no one could predict, unless you could tell me how big an increase we're going to see in the war efforts. And if you could tell me that, we could, make a guesstimate of how much more silver that would use.
And you've also mentioned before that it seems like industrial demand itself could really potentially consume the entire silver supply in the coming years. So where is that extra silver going to come from for investment and other uses?
That comes from Matt Watson. I'll give him a shout out. You can look him up. He does I think it's called a Green Metals Report for Kitco. I think it's once a week. And Matt's a very bright guy. He looks at all the metals elements on the periodic chart and does a report, and he has a consulting service. But where does that metal come from? It comes from the above ground stockpile. So if you have 2 billion ounces in 1,000-ounce bars, and that's above ground stockpile, who owns it? Well, investors and industry. Really two categories. So industry is going to need it to produce.
Let's dive deeper into one of the key drivers behind silver's unprecedented surge in demand, the military sector. In an age where warfare is increasingly digital and high-tech, silver has emerged as an essential material in the production of advanced military equipment. This isn't just about coins or jewelry anymore. Silver is now a strategic metal crucial for national defense. The military's growing reliance on silver is tied to its unparalleled electrical conductivity, thermal properties, and resistance to corrosion. These attributes make it the perfect material for a wide range of military applications, from sophisticated missile systems to the most advanced communication devices used on the battlefield. For example, the wiring and connectors in modern fighter jets and drones are often made of silver because it ensures reliable and efficient signal transmission, which is critical in high-stakes combat situations. But that's just scratching the surface. Silver is also used extensively in military-grade batteries, which power everything from portable communication devices to submarines. In fact, some of the most cutting-edge defense technologies, such as missile guidance systems and satellite communications, depend on silver to function effectively. When you consider the scale of military operations around the world, the amount of silver required is staggering, and it's only going to increase as nations continue to invest in upgrading their arsenals. David Morgan has emphasized this point, noting that the military's demand for silver is unlike anything we've seen before. He points out that as global tensions rise, so too does the need for more advanced weaponry and defense systems, all of which require significant amounts of silver. This isn't a temporary spike in demand. It's a long-term trend that's set to accelerate as countries scramble to stay ahead in the arms race. But here's where it gets even more interesting. The military doesn't just consume silver, it consumes it in ways that are non-recoverable. Unlike gold, which can be recycled and reused, much of the silver used in military applications is lost forever, embedded in equipment that's either destroyed or rendered obsolete over time. This creates a constant, insatiable demand that further tightens the supply. Consider this. Every missile, every piece of advanced electronic equipment that's deployed in the field, effectively takes silver out of circulation permanently. With global military spending on the rise, expected to surpass $2 trillion annually in the coming years, the demand for silver is set to explode. As more and more silver is consumed by the military, less of it is available for other uses, creating a supply squeeze that will inevitably drive prices higher. So what does this mean for you? Simply put, as the military continues to stockpile silver, the price of this underdog metal is poised to break new records. This isn't just speculation. It's a forecast based on hard data and observable trends in global defense spending. The military's insatiable appetite for silver is setting the stage for what could be one of the biggest bull markets in metal's history. In short, the military's growing demand for silver is not just a factor, it's a game changer. It's one of the key reasons why the price of silver could skyrocket in the near future, creating incredible opportunities for those who are prepared to take advantage of this trend. And remember, this is just one piece of the puzzle. When combined with the tech sector's demand, the case for silver becomes even more compelling. But more on that in the next section.
This is a little bit of a nuanced answer. I'll try to be as crystal clear as I can. First of all, the gold moves opposite the stock market, more so than the dollar. And so if you have the stock market doing so well, why is gold making nominal new highs? Which shows you when gold should actually be very weak because the stock market is doing so well, gold is doing it. So if you think about it, that means that really something's wrong because gold really should not be doing so well if the stocks are doing so. Which means that, yeah, in a big sell-off, gold would probably go down in sympathy with the stock market because there's always a liquidity squeeze, meaning that the fund managers manage money and even individuals, insurance companies have to sell whatever's liquid. Gold's usually the most liquid thing that they own, and they'll sell it off, and selling pressure takes the price lower, but it'll be temporary. So what I'm saying is once we get this realignment, meaning that stocks down, gold up, it's starting from a very, very strong position. So it'll go to an even stronger position because money that is in the stock market will move over into the commodity sector, particularly in the money metals, gold to lead. And you should see strength in the gold market like you haven't seen in quite some time. So I hope I'm clear on that. Could the gold price go down? Yeah, in a big sell-off, it will. But it's also telling you ahead of time how strong it really is and how much it's geared up to go higher and higher. I think you're going to see a pretty good fourth quarter in 2024. And I really expect 2025 to start setting enough new highs in the gold price, silver to participate, that more and more people and also entities, meaning pension funds, insurance companies, managed money, hedge funds, family offices to come into the sector again. Nothing feeds these algorithms more than momentum. And momentum is mass times velocity. In other words, volume and price movement. And when you have those two things working together, it's going to catch the algorithms and that's going to feed on itself. So I'm still very bullish. And I do see this shift. Is it going to be before the end of the year or not? I would guess yes. But as I said earlier, I've been early. I mean, I've been looking at the stock market to, make a peak and start falling for some time. It really hasn't, but we have more clues and cues to that happening now than probably we have had for some time.
Now that we've explored the military's growing demand for silver, let's turn our attention to another colossal force driving the silver market, the technology industry. In today's digital age, silver isn't just valuable, it's vital. From the smartphones in our pockets to the electric vehicles on our roads, silver plays a crucial role in making modern technology possible. Let's break it down. Silver's exceptional conductivity and durability make it irreplaceable in the manufacturing of electronic components. Nearly every piece of technology we use daily, whether it's computers, tablets, or wearable devices, contains silver. It's the tiny but mighty element that keeps the digital world running smoothly. One of the most significant areas where silver is indispensable is in the production of solar panels. As the world shifts towards renewable energy, the demand for solar power is skyrocketing. Solar panels rely heavily on silver, using it to convert sunlight into electricity efficiently. With global initiatives pushing for greener energy solutions, the demand for solar panels, and by extension silver, is set to rise dramatically in the coming years. But it doesn't stop there. The electric vehicle industry is another major consumer of silver. As more and more countries commit to phasing out fossil fuel vehicles, the production of EV is accelerating at an unprecedented rate. Each electric vehicle requires up to twice as much silver as a conventional car, particularly in its electronic systems and batteries. This means that as EV production ramps up, so too does the need for silver. David Morgan, a well-known expert in the metals market, has highlighted this growing dependency of the tech industry on silver. It points out that the technological advancements we often take for granted are, in fact, creating a silver supply crunch. According to Morgan, as tech companies race to develop faster, smarter, and more efficient devices, their demand for silver will only increase, pushing the metal's value higher. Consider this. The global tech industry is expected to grow exponentially in the next decade, driven by innovations in artificial intelligence, 5G networks, and smart home technologies. All of these advancements rely on silver. In fact, without silver, many of these cutting-edge technologies simply wouldn't function. What's more, the tech industry isn't just growing, it's evolving. With the rise of the Internet of Things, IoT, more devices are becoming interconnected, further increasing the demand for silver. The IoT revolution is expected to bring billions of new devices online in the next few years, each requiring a small but essential amount of silver to operate. This trend, coupled with the ongoing demand from the solar and EV sectors, suggests that silver's role in technology is only going to become more critical. But here's where it gets really interesting. Much like in the military sector, the silver used in technology is often non-recoverable. Once it's embedded in electronics, it's typically not recycled, which means that as more silver is used, less of it is available for future use. This creates a scenario where the demand continues to rise, but the supply remains constrained, setting the stage for a significant price surge. As we look to the future, it's clear that the tech industry's insatiable need for silver is going to be a major factor in driving up its price. This is not just a short-term trend. It's a fundamental shift in the way silver is used in the global economy. The question we should be asking isn't if silver prices will rise, but how high they will go. With the military and tech industries both heavily reliant on silver, we're witnessing the beginning of a perfect storm in the silver market. The convergence of these two powerful forces is creating a supply-demand imbalance that could send silver prices to new all-time highs. And as an investor, this is an opportunity you simply cannot afford to ignore.
My life, and I continue to learn more always. No one knows it all, but one of my betters, the late great Jim Dine, said a trend in motion continues until it actually stops. And so I'll just add on to that. The trend has, started some time ago, but until the economy actually gets better, you're going to see that trend not only continue, but probably increase, which means you'll probably see more and more people fleeing California, more businesses that were once, very important to the California economy leaving, moving to, a lot of them will go to Texas, some move to Arizona, some just, are in several states to just close the California branch and leave the rest open. And unfortunately, this is a sign of times, as you said, and I don't think the trend's just getting started. I think it started some time ago, but I think it will increase.
As we've seen, both the military and technology industries are placing unprecedented demands on silver. But what does this mean for the broader economy and, more importantly, for silver prices? To answer this, we need to delve into the economic implications of this growing silver dependency. First and foremost, it's important to understand that silver is not just another commodity. It's a strategic asset. Its unique properties make it essential across multiple high-growth industries, creating a demand that is both robust and resilient. But here's where it gets really interesting. Unlike many other commodities, silver's supply is not easily scalable. This imbalance between surging demand and constrained supply is setting the stage for a dramatic shift in the silver market. Let's start with the basics. The laws of supply and demand tell us that when demand increases and supply remains constant or decreases, prices must go up. This is exactly what we're seeing with silver. The military and tech sectors are driving demand to new heights, yet silver production isn't keeping pace. In fact, silver mining has faced numerous challenges in recent years, including rising extraction costs, regulatory hurdles, and environmental concerns, all of which limit the ability to increase supply. But there's more to the story. Silver is also gaining attention as a safe haven asset, much like gold. In times of economic uncertainty, investors flock to safe havens to protect their wealth, and silver is increasingly being seen as an attractive alternative to gold. This trend is particularly notable in the current economic climate, where fears of inflation, geopolitical tensions, and market volatility are driving more investors towards precious metals. David Morgan, a seasoned expert in the precious metals market, has pointed out that silver's dual role as both an industrial metal and a safe haven asset creates a unique dynamic, unlike gold, which is primarily driven by investor sentiment. Silver's price is influenced by both industrial demand and investment flows. This makes silver highly responsive to changes in the broader economy. Let's consider the impact of inflation. As central banks around the world continue to grapple with rising inflation, the purchasing power of fiat currencies is eroding. Investors, seeking to preserve their wealth, are turning to tangible assets like silver. This influx of investment capital into the silver market adds further upward pressure on prices. Geopolitical tensions are another factor to watch. Whether it's conflicts in the Middle East, trade disputes, or political instability, such events tend to create uncertainty in global markets. This uncertainty drives investors towards safe haven assets, including silver, which is seen as a reliable store of value in turbulent times. But the real game changer is the interplay between silver's industrial demand and its role as a financial asset. As more and more silver is consumed by the military and tech industries, less of it is available to meet the growing demand from investors. This creates a feedback loop where rising prices attract more investment, which in turn pushes prices even higher. We're already seeing the early signs of this dynamic playing out. Recent market data shows that silver prices have been steadily climbing, driven by both strong industrial demand and increasing interest from investors. And according to experts, this is just the beginning. As these economic forces continue to intensify, silver prices could easily surpass previous highs, reaching levels that were once thought to be unattainable. In essence, what we're witnessing is a perfect storm for silver, a confluence of factors that are all working together to drive prices higher. The military and tech industries are creating a floor under the market by ensuring that demand remains strong, while economic uncertainty and inflationary pressures are adding fuel to the fire. So what does this mean for you? If you're an investor, it means that silver represents a unique opportunity, a chance to capitalize on a market that is poised for significant growth. But timing is everything. As more investors recognize the potential of silver, the window of opportunity may close quickly. The bottom line is this: the economic implications of silver's growing demand are profound. We're on the cusp of a major shift in the silver market, one that could see prices reach new all-time highs, and those who position themselves now stand to benefit the most from this historic opportunity.
The physical economy, and you see so many businesses and corporate restaurants that have closed or are closing, or they're paring down, getting rid of, places that are not profitable. And I'll just give you one real quick example of the recession or problems with the economy, and that is In and Out. In and Out is a privately owned company. There's no stock involved with it. It's been around for a long time, and they've expanded their market through very carefully through different states. And they are closing down a few of their stores. And that really had my head scratching because they do such great marketing surveys. They really don't have to market. It's word of mouth advertising. What I discovered was, for example, their Oakland store isn't closing down from lack of profitability. It's closing down for safety reasons. There's been so many robberies and, let's say, foul play in the parking lot of that In and Out that they basically decided to close it down because it's kind of become a problem area for the amount of theft that's going on in that area, which is very sad, but it's also a reflection of the true economic conditions. I mean, if everything was as good as the stock market makes it look, you wouldn't have the reality of people, robbing each other to pay bills or, whatever. So it's very sad, but I think it was a good example. It's just a one-off, but it's clear that as the economy deteriorates more and more, you see more crime and you're seeing more crime. So I think that's another one to think about. I don't like to report it, but you asked the question. I want to give you a clear-cut example, and that is a very interesting one.
To truly understand where silver is headed, we need to examine the current market trends that are shaping its trajectory. The silver market is highly dynamic, influenced by a complex interplay of industrial demand, investor sentiment, and macroeconomic factors. Let's break down the key trends that are driving silver prices today and what they mean for the future. One of the most significant trends we're seeing is the increasing volatility in global markets. Economic uncertainty, fueled by everything from inflationary pressures to geopolitical conflicts, has made investors nervous. In this environment, silver has emerged as a safe haven asset, similar to gold, but with even greater potential for upside due to its industrial uses. As traditional stock markets face turbulence, more and more investors are turning to silver as a way to hedge against risk. This trend is particularly evident in the rising premiums on physical silver. Over the past few months, we've seen a surge in demand for physical silver, with investors snapping up coins and bars at rates far above the spot price. This premium reflects the growing recognition that silver is undervalued compared to other assets and has significant room to grow. David Morgan, who has closely monitored these developments, notes that the disconnect between silver's paper price and the demand for physical silver is a clear indicator of an impending price correction. He argues that as more investors seek to take physical delivery of silver, we could see a significant squeeze in the market, driving prices much higher. Another critical trend is the growing role of silver in green technologies, particularly in the renewable energy sector. As countries around the world push for cleaner energy sources, the demand for solar panels, which rely heavily on silver, is skyrocketing. In fact, the International Energy Agency, IEA, has projected that global solar capacity will triple by 2030, and this expansion will require vast amounts of silver. But it's not just solar energy that's boosting silver demand. The electric vehicle revolution is another major driver. EV require twice as much silver as traditional vehicles, particularly in their electronic systems and batteries. As governments worldwide continue to push for the adoption of electric vehicles, the demand for silver in this sector is expected to soar. These trends are creating a perfect storm in the silver market. On the one hand, we have robust industrial demand driven by the military, technology, and green energy sectors. On the other hand, with growing investor demand as silver becomes increasingly recognized as a safe haven asset. This dual demand is putting immense pressure on the silver supply, which remains relatively constrained. We're also seeing interesting movements in silver ETF, exchange-traded funds. Over the past year, silver ETF have seen significant inflows, indicating that institutional investors are betting big on silver's future. These large-scale purchases are a clear signal that the smart money believes silver is undervalued and poised for a breakout. Let's not forget about the broader economic environment. With central banks continuing to print money at unprecedented rates, the risk of inflation is becoming a major concern. Silver, with its intrinsic value and finite supply, is an attractive asset in times of inflation. As the purchasing power of fiat currencies declines, the relative value of silver is likely to rise, making it an even more appealing investment. Finally, let's consider the technical analysis. Silver prices have been trading in a relatively tight range for the past few months, but many analysts believe that a breakout is imminent. Key resistance levels are being tested, and if silver can push through these barriers, we could see a rapid acceleration in price. This aligns with David Morgan's view that silver is building up for a major move, one that could catch many investors by surprise. So what does all this mean? The current trends in the silver market point to one conclusion. We are on the brink of something big. The combination of strong industrial demand, growing investor interest, and favorable economic conditions is setting the stage for a significant price increase. If you're considering investing in silver, now might be the time to act before the market fully realizes this potential. The question you need to ask yourself is, are you positioned to benefit from this? As these trends continue to play out, the opportunity to get in at a good price may not last long. The market is moving, and those who recognize these trends early will be the ones who profit most.
As it morphs into democracy, it's going to unravel. It's unraveling as we speak. It will continue that trend, I believe, and then we'll, resurrect a new form of government. What will it look like? Will there be a new constitutional convention? Will most likely it'll be a banking-led system, new Bretton Woods, if you will, probably be based on a new format of the monetary system with perhaps central bank digital currencies and a digital ID. And the whole idea of individual liberty will kind of go out the window, and it's all about your safety, and your individual rights are based on your individual control, based on the state recognizing who you are with a digital ID, and without the digital ID and state really having availability to all your liberty. In other words, having control over what you can and cannot do, what you can and cannot say, where you can and cannot go, based on them looking after you or Big Brother taking hold of your safety. You've given up your liberty without really realizing it in many cases, and you think you've got safety, but you've given up safety for freedom. That's the way I see it. Is it going to go that direction and actually happen? I don't know. There may be some pushbacks. What can you do? Number one is, digest what I just said and verify it. Well, David said this, he's an extremist or whatever. Well, maybe I'm a visionary. Maybe I see things a little ahead of the others. Maybe not. You determine that for yourself. Once you've made that determination, well, you can get with your Congress critters. You can call them on the phone. You can write an email. You can send a physical letter. That may do some good in some cases. You can educate others. I think that's one thing. And the other one is to drop out of the system as much as possible. So one of the ways you could fight them very easily in a non-aggressive way, using the non-aggression principles to go to the ATM once a week or whatever and spend cash into the system. Quit using credit, quit using debit, start using cash everywhere you go. That will put a lot of pressure on the banks to maintain cash in the system. That's one thing you can do. Another one, as I just said, is educate others. And the other one is to work with your community, not only with educating them, but to see what you can do and what you can do outside the system. Maybe you can start a barter.
Now that we've explored the current market trends, let's dive into the specific catalysts that could trigger a significant surge in silver prices. These catalysts are not just hypothetical. They're based on real-world developments that are already in motion and have the potential to push silver prices to unprecedented levels. The first catalyst to consider is geopolitical instability. We live in an increasingly volatile world where conflicts and tensions can erupt with little warning. Silver, much like gold, has a long history of performing well in times of geopolitical uncertainty. Whether it's escalating tensions in the Middle East, trade disputes between major economies, or political instability in key regions, these events create fear and uncertainty in global markets. Investors, seeking to protect their wealth, often flock to safe haven assets like silver. As demand spikes, so do prices. David Morgan has frequently emphasized the impact of geopolitical events on silver. He notes that in times of crisis, silver's price can move rapidly as it becomes a refuge for investors. Unlike gold, which is often more expensive, silver is seen as a more accessible option for both large and small investors, making it a go-to asset during turbulent times. Another major catalyst is the potential for a significant economic downturn. While no one can predict the future with certainty, there are warning signs that the global economy may be headed for a recession. Economic indicators, such as the Conference Board's leading economic index, have been pointing to a slowdown in growth, and central banks are facing a delicate balancing act as they try to manage inflation without stifling economic activity. In the event of a recession, we could see a dramatic increase in demand for silver. During the 2008 financial crisis, silver prices soared as investors sought to protect their assets from the collapsing stock market. A similar scenario could unfold in the near future, especially if economic conditions worsen and central banks are forced to implement more aggressive monetary policies, such as cutting interest rates or launching new rounds of quantitative easing. This brings us to the third catalyst, monetary policy. Central banks around the world have been printing money at unprecedented rates, leading to concerns about inflation and currency devaluation. As the purchasing power of paper money declines, tangible assets like silver become more attractive. Investors looking to hedge against inflation and preserve their wealth are increasingly turning to silver, driving up demand and consequently prices. But here's where it gets really interesting. Silver is not just a hedge against inflation, it's also a hedge against deflation. In a deflationary environment, where prices are falling and economic activity is contracting, silver's role as a safe haven asset becomes even more important. Investors, fearing the erosion of wealth in a deflationary spiral, may flock to silver, pushing its price higher. There's also the potential impact of technological breakthroughs. We've already discussed the importance of silver in the tech industry, but what if a new technology emerges that requires even more silver? For instance, advancements in nanotechnology, medical devices, or renewable energy could create entirely new markets for silver. As these technologies develop, the demand for silver could surge, creating a new wave of buying pressure. Lastly, let's not forget about the possibility of a silver supply shock. Silver mining is a complex and challenging industry, with many mines located in politically unstable regions. Any disruption to the supply chain, whether due to strikes, natural disasters, or government interventions, could significantly reduce the amount of silver available on the market. This kind of supply shock, combined with strong demand, could send silver prices skyrocketing. David Morgan has warned that the silver market is particularly vulnerable to supply disruptions, given its relatively small size compared to other commodities. He argues that even a minor disruption in supply could have outsized effects on the market, leading to sharp price increases. So, where does this leave us? The potential price catalysts for silver are numerous and varied, ranging from geopolitical instability to economic downturns, inflation, technological advancements, and supply shocks. Each of these factors alone could drive silver prices higher, but when combined, they create a powerful case for why silver could see explosive growth in the near future.
It is a constitutional republic, at least that's how it was founded. And of course, you hear almost everybody in the political class talk about the democracy, and both sides talk about saving democracy, and we need to save our democracy, and our democracy is at risk. And that word's used over and over. And it's really not true. as far as how we're founded. So I went back into, the history of the foundation of the country and why the founding fathers were against a democracy and what the differences are and why it's important to uphold a constitutional republic. And the old adage that many, let's say, more patriotic or more well-studied people know no matter left or right, that the idea being that when asked after the Constitutional Convention, Benjamin Franklin was asked, well, what have you given us? He said, a constitutional republic, or a republic if you could keep it, meaning that most morph into a democracy, and democracies usually last around 200 years. And then when there's just too much demand on the producers from the people that are taking from the producers, where everybody's trying to get something for nothing, the system collapses. So that was the gist of it. I was happy to do it. I think it was clear. I got a lot of positive feedback on it. It doesn't take much time. You can vet it. You can check everything I said in it. It's all, easily vetted that it's correct. And it makes people think. It's like, what do you want? And basically, the foundation was individual liberty, individual freedom, and individual responsibility. With all these freedoms comes responsibility, and you've got to be responsible for yourself. You don't want to have to depend on the state for basically anything. You want to depend on the state to uphold your liberty, or to defend your liberty, or to make sure your liberty stays intact. Your freedom is there. You could be 100% right, but then democracy, which is mobocracy or mob rule, as long as the mob decides that they want what you have and the majority rules, they could vote away your personal property, for example. And so this isn't what we want. We want each individual. And this is funny because it sort of goes along with some of the new liberal ideas about being acknowledged for your own diversity. Well, there's nothing more diverse than being an individual, and that an individual has as much right as anybody else at law, as long as you're within the realm of the law. And you're supposed to be defended for those rights. And so it's kind of interesting to me how, if you really look at it from an objective perspective, that some, let's say, new liberals don't really realize that the best way to get what they want and maintain their diversity is to not fight for democracy where it's mob rule, but to fight for individual liberty, which is a constitutional republic.
Can you expand on kind of then where do you see us heading? Because you mentioned how democracies typically only last about 2.
Investor sentiment plays a crucial role in driving the silver market, and right now, it's leaning heavily in favor of a bullish outlook. This shift in sentiment is not happening in a vacuum. It's the result of growing recognition that silver offers a unique combination of safety and growth potential, something that few other assets can provide. Let's start by looking at how silver is being perceived as a safe haven asset. Traditionally, gold has been the go-to metal for investors seeking protection from economic uncertainty, but silver is quickly gaining ground. Why? Because silver is more than just a precious metal. It's also an industrial powerhouse. This dual role means that silver is less prone to the same kind of speculative bubbles that can sometimes affect gold, making it a more stable option in uncertain times. David Morgan has often pointed out that silver's lower price point compared to gold makes it more accessible to a broader range of investors. This accessibility is crucial because it allows everyday investors to participate in the market, increasing overall demand. As more people wake up to the potential of silver, we're seeing a growing wave of interest that is likely to continue building momentum. Another key factor driving investor sentiment is the search for real, tangible assets in a world increasingly dominated by digital currencies and financial instruments that may find hard to understand or trust. Silver, with its intrinsic value and long history as a store of wealth, offers a reassuringly solid investment. It's something you can hold in your hand, something that has real-world uses beyond just being a medium of exchange. But it's not just individual investors who are turning to silver. Institutional investors are also getting in on the action. Silver ETF, exchange-traded funds, have seen significant inflows over the past year, indicating that big players are betting on a silver surge. These institutional investments are particularly telling because they often represent a longer-term view of the market. When hedge funds and other large investors start moving into silver, it's a strong signal that they expect prices to rise. Moreover, we're seeing a shift in the narrative around silver within the investment community. What was once considered a niche investment is now being discussed as a mainstream option for diversification and risk management. Financial advisors and wealth managers are increasingly recommending silver as part of a balanced portfolio, especially in light of growing concerns about inflation and economic instability. This changing narrative is crucial because it helps to sustain and amplify the bullish sentiment around silver. As more investors start to see silver not just as an alternative to gold, but as a valuable asset in its own right, demand is likely to continue rising. This shift in perception is further supported by the media, which has been giving more attention to silver's potential, helping to educate and inform the broader public. But perhaps the most compelling aspect of investor sentiment is the sense of urgency that is starting to take hold. With all the factors we've discussed, from military and tech demand to economic and geopolitical risks, there's a growing awareness that the window to invest in silver at these levels may be closing. This urgency is driving more and more investors to act now, rather than risk missing out on what could be a historic bull run. David Morgan has emphasized the importance of understanding market psychology when investing in silver. He argues that as more investors recognize the potential for silver to reach new highs, we'll see a self-reinforcing cycle where rising prices attract more buyers, further driving up demand and prices. This is the classic momentum effect that can lead to explosive growth in asset values. So, where does this leave us? The current investor sentiment around silver is overwhelmingly positive, and for good reason. The combination of rising demand, limited supply, and increasing recognition of silver's value as both an industrial and safe haven asset is creating a perfect storm. If you're not yet positioned in the silver market, the time to act is now, before the momentum builds to the point where prices are out of reach. The bottom line is this: investor sentiment is a powerful force in the market, and right now, it's pointing to significant upside potential for silver. Those who recognize this and move early are likely to be the ones who benefit the most as silver prices continue to climb.
For a long time. And it's psychological. There's something about round numbers, whether it's soybean oil or lumber or cotton, it doesn't really matter. It could be the sugar market. There's certain levels where people get confidence. So if the sugar market hits a certain level and stays there, and that becomes basically a support level, there's a lot more psychological momentum or ideas that, you know what, I'm really safe to buy silver above this level because it's maintained it for, 3 months now or 4 months or whatever the case may be. So it is important. It is technically important, just looking at a chart. It's also psychologically important because people, especially when you're in a leveraged investment like the futures markets, you want to not only trade with the trend, but you also want to have some level of confidence that you're getting in at a level where you're above support or near support, so that you have an amount of confidence. And that feeds on itself. And then, of course, it goes to a new level, and then it gets overbought, it sells off, and then a new support level has to build. But it kind of stair steps up. Going to what you implied is there's very little upside resistance on silver above about 33. And once you get to that level, will we beat a 50, 3 days later? And the answer is no. But it could accelerate, especially if depending on internet chatter, if a big participant comes in. I don't expect Warren Buffett to buy silver again. But if you get, let's say Elon Musk buys a large silver mine, or buys stock in a large silver producer, or puts his own silver refinery in somewhere, or something along those lines. And I'm just saying Elon as an example. It could be someone else somewhere else. But all of a sudden, there's some big news in the silver market that will bring awareness instantly. And a lot of people that haven't even thought about silver might start to look at the market and maybe run across this interview and say, really? Oh, that doesn't make any sense. You mean we're using up more silver than we're mining and recycling? got to be kidding me. And once they determine that for themselves,
As we draw closer to understanding the full picture of silver's potential, it's essential to consider the insights and predictions from industry experts who have been closely watching the silver market for years. These experts bring a wealth of knowledge and experience, offering perspectives that can help us anticipate where silver prices might be headed. One of the most respected voices in the silver market is David Morgan, often referred to as the silver guru. He has been tracking the precious metals markets for decades, and his insights into the silver market have proven accurate time and again. Morgan has consistently highlighted the unique position that silver holds as both an industrial metal and a safe haven asset. He argues that this dual role gives silver an edge that other commodities simply do not have. Morgan's bullish outlook on silver is grounded in several key factors we've already discussed. The growing industrial demand from sectors like technology and green energy, the increasing use of silver in military applications, and the looming supply constraints. But what makes his perspective particularly compelling is his focus on the market's underlying fundamentals. Morgan believes that the current price of silver does not fully reflect its true value, and that we are on the verge of a significant price correction as the market catches up to these realities. He is not alone in this view. Other respected analysts, such as Jeff Clark of goldsilver.com, have also pointed to the widening gap between silver's industrial demand and its available supply. Clark argues that this gap will only widen in the coming years, leading to higher prices as industries compete for limited silver resources. He also emphasizes the impact of monetary policy on silver, noting that as central banks continue to devalue currencies through inflationary policies, tangible assets like silver will become increasingly attractive to investors. Then there's Keith Neumeyer, CEO of First Majestic Silver Corp., one of the world's leading silver producers. Neumeyer has been vocal about his belief that silver is severely undervalued. He points out that the current market conditions, marked by high demand and low supply, are unsustainable. According to Neumeyer, it's only a matter of time before the price of silver adjusts to reflect its growing scarcity and increased industrial use, particularly in green technologies like solar power and electric vehicles. Moreover, Neumeyer has highlighted the disconnect between the paper silver market, where silver is traded in financial contracts, and the physical silver market. He argues that the paper market, which often involves trading silver that doesn't actually exist, has kept prices artificially low. As more investors demand physical delivery of silver, this disconnect could trigger a dramatic rise in prices. We also can't ignore the insights from institutional analysts who are starting to pay more attention to silver. Analysts at Citigroup, for example, have recently upgraded their outlook on silver, citing its critical role in the green energy transition. They predict that silver could outperform other metals in the next few years as governments around the world ramp up their commitments to renewable energy. This institutional interest is significant because it suggests that the big players are starting to recognize the potential for substantial gains in the silver market. What all these experts agree on is that silver is at a pivotal moment. The combination of strong industrial demand, tight supply, and increasing investor interest is setting the stage for a potential breakout in silver prices. They warn that those who wait too long to get involved may miss out on one of the most significant investment opportunities of the decade. But it's not just about the potential for profit. These experts also emphasize the importance of silver as a hedge against economic uncertainty. In a world where inflation is rising, currencies are being devalued, and geopolitical tensions are escalating, silver offers a form of protection that few other assets can match. So, what can we take away from these expert opinions? The consensus is clear. Silver is undervalued, underappreciated, and poised for a significant rise. Whether you're an investor looking for growth or someone seeking to protect your wealth in uncertain times, silver represents a unique opportunity. As David Morgan and others have pointed out, the silver market is at a turning point, and those who act now could see substantial rewards as the market adjusts to these powerful trends.
whatever they produce, silverware, solar panels, silver mesh, silver shots, silver liquids, whatever it is for the industrial side. And then investors, of course, are looking for price appreciation. So they may hold 1,000-ounce bars in inventory, but they're not really willing to sell it until they get the kind of price appreciation that they want. In other words, they might want 10%, they might 20%, they might see a doubling in the silver price, whatever it is. So a lot of that silver really isn't for sale until we get to a higher price. And then kind of price begets price. In other words, as industry has to buy it in order to stay in business, that is a certain demand that really doesn't go away. And then that draws in more participants on the investment side, which means it drives it even higher. So I see once these two demands start to go for a limited supply and the price of silver is going higher as the above ground supply is diminishing, I think we're getting in a situation where we saw it once before, but this time there's a vast amount of education and people actually see it and know it's happening. Whereas when it happened between 1990 and 2005, unless you're a true silver bug and really studied the market, you're really unaware of that. But this time around, I think with people like Matt Watson, myself, and many others that understand the dynamics, and there's a lot more awareness of the precious metals, and they see these, and they see them coming from more than one source, and they can verify them. That will be added impetus. I mean, I would almost guarantee that Elon Musk is very aware of the projection for what's going to take place with the above ground inventory of silver going on from the last couple of years as far as a decade out or more, that the silver demand cannot be met industrial side only with what we're producing with mining and recycling. There could be a shift. There could be some substitute that comes in. There could be a big discovery. There could be some vast way to recycle silver very cheaply. I mean, you have to think about the other side of the coin. Is there something we're overlooking? And yes, it's possible, but it's not very probable. So the dynamics for silver is probably as good now as they've ever been. It's just that, again, it's the education. And more people really are aware of it than the current price dynamic.
After exploring the multifaceted demand from the military and technology sectors, analyzing the current market trends, and absorbing the insights from top industry experts, we're left with one clear conclusion. Silver is poised to surge in ways that we've never seen before. The convergence of these powerful forces, geopolitical instability, economic uncertainty, escalating industrial demand, and a growing investor base, creates a perfect storm for silver. This is not a temporary spike or a speculative bubble. What we're looking at is a structural shift in the silver market, driven by real-world demand and constrained by limited supply. Consider the facts. The military's reliance on silver for critical technologies is only going to increase as global tensions rise and as defense budgets expand. The tech industry's voracious appetite for silver, particularly in green energy and electric vehicles, shows no signs of slowing down. On top of this, economic factors such as inflation and currency devaluation are driving investors to seek safe haven assets, with silver emerging as a leading choice. David Morgan, along with other industry experts, has been vocal about the imminent price correction in silver. The paper market's artificial suppression of prices cannot hold indefinitely against the tide of physical demand. As more investors and industries demand real silver, not just paper contracts, we're likely to see a significant squeeze in the market. And here's the kicker. All of this is happening while silver remains relatively undervalued compared to its historical highs and its potential future value. This disconnect presents an extraordinary opportunity for those who recognize the market dynamics at play. If silver does what many experts believe it will, breaking through resistance levels and climbing to new all-time highs, it won't just be a windfall for those who have positioned themselves early. It will also mark a turning point in how we view silver, not just as a commodity, but as a strategic asset with unparalleled growth potential. The real question you should be asking yourself isn't if silver will surge, but rather, how high will it go? Will silver merely return to its previous highs, or will it surpass them, reaching levels that once seemed unimaginable? Given the current trajectory, the latter seems increasingly likely. So, what's the takeaway? The time to act is now. The window of opportunity to invest in silver at these levels is closing. As the forces driving silver converge, prices are set to rise, and those who hesitate
Community, maybe you can start your own, labor dollar or whatever, as long as the community agrees. There are things you can do as far as work with entities that are already pushing back. I mean, you can go to the Mises Institute, you can look at the Cato Institute, you can look at Citizens for Sound Money. You can do something with Ron Paul's website. So a lot of places you can get educated. There's a lot of us, you being one of them, that have spent a great deal of time, energy, and effort and their own money in many cases to help educate others. And all you have to do really is kind of align with them. And a lot of it's been set up for you, where really all you have to do is come into the fold and ask the question, how can I do to serve the community that's trying to preserve our liberty? So I think if you open your mind, there's actually many avenues you can take to do something that you're somewhat comfortable with, or maybe getting outside of your comfort zone to push back.
All right. Well, David Morgan, we really appreciate your time today. If our viewers are interested in learning more, they can go to themorganreport.com. Can you share with us a bit about that and any last thoughts you had?
Yeah, just to get on our free email list. I mean, go to themorganreport.com and get on our free list. If you're interested in our private work, then look at the subscribe button or tab on the website. And the other one is the documentary, silversunrise.tv. I just finished my interview. Of course, I'll be in it as one of the participants this week. And I forget how many, 20, 25 questions, about an hour and a half. You will not see them all. But it was fun in a way. It was a little bit demanding, but that's accomplished. So I only have really 2 more interviews to do. That part of the process will be accomplished. And then, of course, the big, I don't know what it takes, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months to edit it all together and produce the film. But we're getting close to the end. And here it is, end of July, early August. So I'm guessing the end of August, we'll probably have the interviews done. So starting in September, the editing process will start. And hopefully early 2025, the documentary will be out. And of course, I'll be mentioning that to websites like yours. It's to get the latest trailers that will kind of give you the progress report of where we're at silversunrise.tv.